Hey there, you're listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Here's your host, RJ Carbone.
And a high drive into left center field. Stanley's going to watch another one fly. Are you kidding me? DiVincenzo a three. Bang! Bang! Knicks take a
Take this time to apologize to absolutely nobody.
At the wall. See ya! See ya! See ya! Mr. November.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down and the game is tied.
Rose, you shook up the world again.
I did it again. But God did it, man. I really just had
Gonna have to. Brunson running away. Oh my! He has been the best player to put on that uniform.
Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right. Well, that was fun. That was fun. That was a fun win. I enjoyed that win. I would like more wins like that. Yes, Sacramento was without their best player. They were on the second of a tough back-to-back where they were in a tough overtime game the night prior to. I don't care. The Knicks were also without their best player. Yes, that thumbnail is clickbait. And they proceeded to dog walk a play-in contender from the West Coast. So, Kings are an average but decent at times team. And the Knicks took care of them with a 30-whatever point blowout. They got off to a slow start again. You know, that seems to be a pattern. It's been a pattern all year. They let Sacramento get off to this 5-0 run, I think it was. After that, pretty much all Knicks. Deuce McBride caught fire in that first quarter. He finished the first quarter with 15 points on 5 for 5. Knocked down 3 triples. Finished the game with 21 points, 7 assists. OG Anunoby got red hot in the second half. He had a big third quarter where he scored over half of his 24 points. Karl-Anthony Towns found his way to an efficient 26 points on 15 shots. 3 for 6 from 3. Landry Shamet contributed. Landry Shamet, the majority of his hot shooting came in the fourth quarter. He was out there late with the garbage time squad, but he had a good game. 10 points of his came in the fourth quarter. I think he finished with 13. PJ Tucker on the bench. It was, you saw him since signing with the Knicks. He saved the season. They were 1-0 with PJ Tucker. He said something to Josh Hart, got him going. Josh Hart had himself a nice game. Missing anybody? Mikhail had a nice game. No Precious Achiuwa. Just 5 minutes for him. But Tibbs ran basically an 8-man rotation. Thank God, because I'm kind of done with Precious at the 4, the whole thing. But a great win for the Knicks. Campaign at moments, campaign to, and a good win. A 133-104 victory in Sacramento against the Kings. The defense stood out. You know, Sacramento is a good offense. The last time I checked, I don't know where they are in the ratings, but they're really, I'm pretty sure they're a pretty good top 10 offense at least. But I'm not going to put too much stock into this defensive performance because Jalen Brunson was out, and he's obviously one of their weak points, so you can't really have much of a takeaway from this. But I thought they defended well. Drop coverage on the Sacramento guards. I thought they did a pretty good job at the point of attack as the game went along. And I thought the bigs were solid. The Knicks were switching a little bit more. last night, and they were pretty seamless and cohesive switches. They weren't really hesitating. They were on par with them. Mitch and Towns were switching pretty well. I like their defensive performances. When Mitch was playing with the starting unit, I liked him and OG together. That's a pretty cool duo defensively. When you have OG in help as a roamer, that's fun itself. When Tibbs puts him on a low usage player, he's able to help off and wreak havoc on the strong side. When you have that, and then you have Mitchell Robinson out there doing his thing along with it, it's a really fun duo to watch. So I thought the second quarter there, those were fun minutes to end the half. And I thought the offense was the big takeaway from this game. And I want to talk in this episode 820 here of the show. Welcome to BD4. I do want to focus on that side of the ball. There are a few things I want to discuss, and obviously this all is going to tie together. But there are some things to talk about offensively that I want to analyze from this game. So we'll get to that as soon as we return from our first break here on episode 820 of BD4. Stay with us. Be right back. BD4 is available on social media for those who want to follow. You can find BD4 on Instagram at BD4Pod. You can find us on X at BD4Pod. And you can find us on Facebook by simply searching BD4. Hey guys, just a quick reminder, this podcast is also available in video format on YouTube. So be sure to go over to the YouTube channel, BD4, subscribe, like the videos, comment, and tell me how much I suck or maybe how much you like the video. We'd very much appreciate it. Okay, welcome back to the show. Episode 820 of BD4. Appreciate you all tuning in. The Knicks beat the Kings 133-104. Behind the three-point ball. And that's, I guess, where we'll start. Because, listen, for most of the season, big topic we've been talking about has been switching defenses, that cross match, and three-point volume, right? And that kind of goes hand in hand. And that all continues to start with Josh Hart and his confidence from three-point land. When Josh Hart is confident out there and he's taking the open looks that he gets, that means really good things for the offense. It will prevent those cross matches between big and wing, and it will lead to much better fluidity in the half court. When Josh Hart is not confident and he's hesitant to take those open looks that the defense gives him, that's very bad for the offense, because the big that the defense puts on Josh Hart will help off of him and into the paint onto other actions. And they clog the paint because Josh Hart is not always screening enough, and sometimes he does too much spacing. And when Josh Hart's spacing, the defense doesn't have to pay attention to him. But when he's screening in the action, the defender has to come up into the pick and roll. So it's important that when he's not in the action and he's off the ball, he's taking those open three-point looks when the ball makes its way to him. When he's not confident, though, it also shuts Towns down, right? Because when the big is on Josh Hart, that means you have a wing or a small on Towns. And then you have a big in the paint. And Towns' pick-and-roll game vanishes. His three-point volume decreases with a perimeter defender on him. He's always going to prefer to put the ball on the floor and attack inside. But you put a smaller defender on him, somebody who can be a pest on the perimeter, he's not comfortable shooting over him. When he's posting, the defense is going to send help to the post off of Josh. Not to mention the last couple of months during these offensive struggles, injuries haven't helped with the spacing, and some poor lineup combinations have also compromised the spacing, right? Double non-space lineups, two guys who can't shoot out there. It's difficult to find Towns minutes away from Josh Hart when Tibbs is constantly playing Josh Hart 40 minutes. All of that stuff that we just said, that leads to bad offensive production. And the Knicks have not been a good offensive team since the All-Star break. In their last 9 games, every one of those games have been since All-Star break. Entering last night, they were averaging 108 points. They had scored below 115 points in 8 of those 9 games. And in their last 3 games entering last night, they scored 102, 109, and 95. They've not been a good offensive team over the last couple of weeks. But last night, what you saw out there was a confident Josh Hart and a Knicks team that was confident in getting 3-point looks up in volume. They took 43-point attempts. Damn near half of their field goals were from 3. And specifically, it was Josh Hart, Towns, and Anunoby who combined for 19 of those 40 attempts. So half. I don't know what PJ Tucker told Hart, but he definitely told him to shoot the ball or something like that. And it got him going. The Knick offense is much better, and they're going to be much better in the long run when Josh Hart is shooting with confidence. Just look at what happened in the playoffs last year. The first round, the Knicks get the Sixers. Josh Hart's taking those looks. He averaged 6.2 3-point attempts a night against the Sixers in that round. The Knicks beat them pretty handedly towards the end. It's super important that they continue to go that route. With the way that Karl Anthony Towns is being guarded right now with the wing, it's important. And the Knicks did a nice job getting Towns the ball when he had a big on him last night. I thought that was also important, right? There was a possession early in the first quarter when Karl Towns does have the big, take advantage of those moments because they don't always come. They don't come often. But there was a possession early first quarter. The Knicks are in transition. Towns is one of the trailers. I think Mikal Bridges signals to Josh Hart to hit Towns going downhill because he's going on a backtracking big and the defense wasn't exactly matched up yet. And he finds Towns. Towns attacks downhill, ends up drawing a couple of free throws. So that's where it starts. And so the Knicks overall last night, I thought just did a great job of obliterating that Sacramento defense. They destroyed their help coverages. They destroyed their hedges, their zones. They destroyed their drop coverages. And they did it all with good passing and screening. Deuce McBride, as the starting point guard again, was involved in a bunch of sets. First quarter, ATO set. The Knicks run Spain pick and roll. Josh Hart's the primary screener up top. OG's the back screener. Deuce is on the ball. He gets downhill off the screen, finishes off 2 feet. Sometime in the second half, the Knicks ran floppy for Deuce McBride. That's an action they usually run for Brunson to get him an off-ball look coming from underneath the basket. They ran that for McBride. Early in the first quarter, they ran a zoom action where Mitch sets the pin down, flows that into DHO with Deuce McBride. Sacramento miscommunicates on the switch. Mitch slips the screen. The Sacramento defense collapses inside to help on Mitch, and the ball eventually finds its way to Josh Hart for a 3. Middle of the third quarter, the Knicks run another ATO set. This was a spread pick and roll. It was a Deuce McBride Karl Towns side pick and roll with Josh Hart spread as the outlet on the opposite wing. Towns slips the screen into a short roll. Deuce makes a quick pass to Josh Hart, one pass away. Hart makes a gator pass to Towns on the roll. Towns hits OG weak side corner for a 3. It was a beautiful play with beautiful process and beautiful execution. End of the third quarter, the Knicks ran a nice ghost screen action to get Towns a 3-point look. It was a Mikal Towns high pick and roll. Towns sets the ghost screen. Mikal draws 2 defenders on the drive, kicks to the corner, swing to Cat. Cat knocks down an open 3 with Sacramento in rotation. Middle of the fourth quarter, a baseline out of bounds set. It was a screener play. Mikal sets the down screen for OG Anunoby to cut off of. Sacramento's late switching it. Mitchell Robinson screens for Mikal to come off of. One sec. Let me restart that. I had to do something I had to step out for 5 minutes. So, middle of the fourth quarter, there was a blob set the Knicks ran. A baseline out of bounds play. Screen to screener action. Mikal sets the down screen for OG to cut off of. The Kings are late switching the action. Mitch then screens for Mikal to come off of. Mikal Bridges receives the inbound pass, flows that into a corner 3-pointer that he takes with the open space off of the late switch because the defender was chasing Mikal behind the hips. So, just, I list those examples because overall I thought they were 4 or 5 great plays there to describe the Knicks maximizing their offense, optimizing spacing and gravity, taking advantage of certain lineups that they put out there. We saw a couple of 5-out minutes in the second half last night, finally. But yeah, 34 assists on 45 makes, 76% rate, 16 of their 22 3-point makes were also assisted. That's 73%. That's no accident. And I bring this all up because whenever the Knicks, whenever the Knicks have a game like this, where they're scoring and they're passing and they're in motion and it's team basketball, you always get the other side of it where fans are like, why don't they play like this all the time? And it's a fair critique. It's a Tibbs conundrum with me. It's a Tom Thibodeau issue. The Knick offense with Brunson, when Brunson's out there, because the metrics this year, the metrics say that the Knicks are a better team when Brunson's off than when he's on. Obviously, it's not telling of Brunson, but what I think it is the Knick offense without Brunson, I think it's because it's optimized more. And that all comes down to spacing. Brunson is a really skilled switch hunter out of pick and roll. He knows how to hunt for matchups and get a favorable ISO off the pick and roll, right? And Tibbs knows this, and he sees this. And so he says, well, if we can create offense so easily with just one guy, and we don't have to risk all this motion around it, which will, increase the chance of turnover, why would I go away from what works? So he puts who he's most comfortable with out there on the floor with Jalen. And one of those guys has been Josh Hart, right? He plays Hart 40 minutes almost a night. But when Brunson's with one other poor spacer, right? He could be with 3 shooters, but if one of those 5 guys on the floor with Brunson, or 4, is not a good spacer, that's bad for everybody else. Because, again, the defense is going to help off, and they're going to pre-rotate off of Josh Hart to the next man. And when it's time for that next man to get the ball, they're now forced to create offense against 2 defenders. And really, when you have those lineups where Brunson is next to Josh Hart, the only player to benefit from that is Josh Hart himself, because he doesn't have a defender who's respecting him. He's got all the space in the world to shoot or drive the open lane. So all in all, for the Knicks to continue to play like this when Brunson returns, where they're shooting 55% on threes and half of their shots are three-point attempts and they score 133 points, et cetera, that kind of team ball and offense and three-point volume, they need to be optimizing Brunson's minutes with the correct lineups and with the correct system. And I think that's obviously falling on Tom Thibodeau. And I have not mentioned this specifically on the show all year because it was not something I thought of. I saw this on Twitter, and then I read the entire. Somebody posted. I'm gonna read his name right now. An article speaking about this, and I thought it was perfectly put. So if you want to check out what I just said in much better phrasing and much better wording, shout out to Jeff Rasmussen, who's known as Frank Barrett on Twitter. I'm sure everybody knows who he is. He's a big Knicks fan. He's content creator on the Strickland. He wrote an article on the Strickland. It's on his Twitter. Jeff Rasmussen, known as Frank Barrett on Twitter, about this exactly. And I read a little bit about it, and I thought it was perfectly put. And it describes, like, I've thought about this, but I could never put it into words. And the way he puts it in his blog, A grade. So definitely check that out on the Strickland. Saying everything about that, just Brunson and when he's with certain lineups and the way those lineups are used, that's why the offense is different when he's out there. And the Knicks just have to find that balance to make it less heliocentric and more balanced. I don't have a term for it. A lot more equal distribution when he's on the floor. So it's not as simple as, black and white. It's a little more intricate than that. But I thought that was well put, and that's the best way I can put it here. And that's it, folks. We're going to wrap it up in a little bit. Head to our final break, get back, hand out our game balls, mention who's up next on the schedule. We'll talk a little bit about that, get to our trivia, and that's that. Stay with us. We will be right back here on episode 820 of BD4. Be right back. Don't have time to sit down and watch a video? You can listen to BD4 on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And you can also watch the video format on Spotify too. If you feel like supporting the podcast, you can Venmo at Robert-Carbone-JR-28. We really appreciate your support. Do you enjoy Yankees baseball but are tired of hearing me yap? I have a suggestion for you. Go check out Yankee Crazy Podcast. Greg Gill is a Yankees podcaster on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and he's now selling merch. Go to yankeecrazy.myshopify.com. All right, welcome back to the show. Episode 820 of BD4. Appreciate you all tuning in. Let's real briefly hand out our game balls for this one. This is tough. A lot of guys played. Everybody played well. But I think the best Knick on the floor last night, at least among the starting unit, really, he was the best on the floor among everybody. OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby has been playing a lot better lately. The three-point shot is falling. He's been knocking down those corners, those catch and shoots. 24 points last night for OG, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, 5 steals. He was a plus 23, and he played 37 minutes. That's now 12 game balls now on the year for OG Anunoby. On the season, he's averaging, I have it here on my phone, 17 points, 5 rebounds, about 1.5 steals, and about a block per game. Shooting splits for OG on the year, 47% from 3, 47% from the field, 37 from 3, and he is 80% at the foul line. Having a much better stretch. He's had a little bit of an underwhelming year, but he's gotten it together the last number of games. I would say the last 5 games or so. So that's nice to see. And always, it's the 3-point volume that you like to see making its return. The bench. I went to Landry Shamet. I thought he had a nice game. Finishes with 13 points. Shot 5 for 7. 3 for 4 from 3. Again, nice job in the fourth quarter. I thought he made some nice contests on defense, on the perimeter, and he provided some good minutes. Landry Shamet, 5 game balls now on the season for Landry. Nice. So that's it regarding game balls. And up next for the Knicks, they've got the Portland Blazers coming up tomorrow. That's another 10:30 p.m. game tomorrow night, Wednesday. And then after that, they are off Thursday and Friday, and they'll be traveling to Golden State to wrap up their West Coast trip Saturday night at 8:30. And that's before they come home to play Miami on Monday. But it's Portland up next, and then they're off for a couple days. So Blazers are not a good team. That's a team the Knicks should run through. Brunson or no Brunson, they need to take care of that team. Hopefully it's the start. Last night was of a win streak, and the Knicks can tread water at the very, very least without Jalen, because they do have a pretty easy schedule coming up. In about a week or so, it gets very easy. So we'll see what happens. Let's head to our final break. When we return, we'll get to our trivia question of the day to wrap everything up. Stay with us. Stay connected with us. Visit BD4blog.com to explore our blog, tune in to our latest podcasts, and follow us on social media. Thank you for being a part of this community. All right, welcome back. Let's wrap this one up. Let's get to our trivia here for episode 820. And our question of the day for this episode: which former Knicks wing was drafted by the Kings and went on to play 6 seasons in the NBA? And your hint is that he played in the 1990s. All right, which former Knicks wing was drafted by the Kings and went on to play 6 seasons in the NBA? Your hint is that he played in the 90s. So one final time. Which former Knicks wing was drafted by the Kings and went on to play 6 seasons in the NBA? He played in the 90s. Appreciate you all, folks. That's going to be it for me. Wrapping this one up here. Knicks beat the Kings 133-104. Nice, easy win. Hopefully it's the start of another win streak. Appreciate you all. I'll see you soon. Well, if you made it this far, that means you listened to or watched the entire episode. Thank you. Just remember to follow, subscribe, download, rate and review, and all that fun stuff to help out the podcast. And I will see you in the next episode of BD4.